Michael Cremo wrote a book, Forbidden Archaeology, followed up with Forbidden Archaeology's impact. It did make a lot of impact. A major part of this book followed the Eoliths. They're translated as dawn stones. These were accepted in England and Europe from the 1880s up to 1900s, and then disappeared from view after what is called the Eolith debate. They're claimed now to be an obsolete term. I've done some videos on them. This is what they look like. They're topographical objects, proving that they have a reality as a human artifact. I'm making this video in order to try and put some context to the work that I've done so far. And here we have Churinga stones. So a churinga, there's two different spellings for this word, one with the TJ and one with the CH, is an Aboriginal object. Here's one. And these are sacred objects. We're going to look at what they're used for in a moment, but they're around the world as well. Churinga stone is more than just a stone or a wooden object which is hidden away and used for the soul transfer at birth and death, and also visitations of spirits during the life. But these are also sacred songs, earth mound, ground paintings. So a lot more than an object. They get associated with individuals, and it's usually hidden in a cave throughout that person's life. This comes from Michael Cremo's book. You can pause it and read it yourself. It's very interesting, but it describes how the creator made the lines on the ground inside a cave. Those lines were the true names of the animals, which is like ancestral animals that come up through the earth. Then, in order to make the first man, he took those lines and then transferred them onto a rock. That rock became the Churinga, which allowed the soul to transfer into the first man. And from that time, all of the man's souls were created in the same way. And since that time, Churingas have allowed for the reincarnation of souls. The key point is that the lines on the earth made by the creator are the true names of the animals, or the animal totems. And we know these appear in indigenous cultures around the world. And that is what enables the creation of man and the soul transfer. So my idea is that these objects that I've been finding, the Eoliths, the shaped stones, the goddesses, Venuses, the caves, and the artworks are all Churinga. So they were created that way to bring the animal spirits that create ourselves and store them. So the connection to the land, to the songline, to the animal, and to the reincarnated souls is all there. These are sacred objects, so I don't want to spend a long time talking about them, but I didn't do a lot of them. But the point of the circle you'll find is all on the map. This one comes from this area around Uluru, the Orente or Pitjantjatjara tribes, and also the lines on this object in the background. So the actual etching and these other markings are also going to be found on the landscape here. So this kind of thing, as well as each and every circle. So click on the red bar, check it yourself. Here's another one that comes from Mount Allen. All of these kind of background ridges, dots, lines, the relief of this matches the relief of the land, and those circles are all there. There's an amazing place in France on an island off the south coast. Large stone chambers that have a lot of art all over them with the same kind of circular spirals that are found in Aboriginal art. And that was noticed in that article. And here's the section that they showed. And I'm going to suggest that you can see all these circles, this line, this V. Pretty much all of this stuff is right there on the landscape. Object was to show that there are Churinga around the world. What happened in this Eolith debate, and really this is the core of what happened to natural sciences, geology and archaeology. Where did we all go wrong? When they actually were on the track to getting it right around the 1850s to 1900s, Darwinism got stronger and stronger. At that time, some precepts regarding progress turned to evolution, and cycles of time began to be viewed as progressive or evolutionary, and a politically powerful movement we can call evolutionary anthropology took over. Anthropology drove the changes in geology and archaeology. So that was an impact of sociological and cultural theories impacting all natural sciences in an adverse way, moving them from objectivity to subjectivity. Great if they were right, not good if they turned out to be false. It's turned out to be false. Ancient man was not a primitive, less advanced, less intelligent. None of that was true. There are already, without Eoliths, there are massive amounts of evidence. Why not? as everybody who's open-minded can see. But regarding these Eoliths, they were found on all continents. These were shaped stones that were noticed to resemble pebbles and tools that are already accepted from Africa, Old Dewan and the other tools that are made by some early hominins, Homo erectus, and then early man. They were found in very large quantities, hundreds of thousands of them in every area, Africa to Europe, across Asia, and all the way to Australia, where they are not found at deep ancient layers, which are usually more than 1 million years old, but in Tasmania they were found on the surface. But the Tasmanians had already been labelled as primitives, and these tools were labelled as primitive tools, rudimentary tools, which really meant failed tools, that they didn't know how to make a decent blade or stone or scraper that they were trying to make, and ended up just with odd shapes. There's a couple of problems that were never really noticed, but are key points, I believe, and I've even in Michael Cremo's book I don't see this come to the fore, is that there were no signs of wear on these Eoliths, and there's millions of them. As of many of the nice tools that are found in the later years, there's no wear on those tools. But so why are they labelled as tools if they're not being used? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you make hundreds of thousands of tools that don't work, are not useful, and not use them? It doesn't make any sense to make a failure over and over and over again. They'd been accepted. All the scientists had looked at them, and they'd all discovered that, yes, these were shaped and made by man. They were only later reversed by Darwinists, who had a preconceived notion. John Felix, F-E-L-I-K-S, wrote some really good stuff on the website Pleistocene Coalition. You could just look at John Felix evolution and read his essays. This is your family, according to the evolutionists. You notice many differences. There are similarities, but there's more differences than similarities. This is the way the textbooks do it. John Felix points this out very well. The men are hairy and the apes look intelligent. So we can see the angle that they're trying to stretch. For more information on that, read Michael Cremo's book or listen to a podcast with Michael Cremo. Anomalous Ancient Finds of Man. So why were Churinga and Eoliths so important through time? There are massive amounts of these everywhere, because sense of place is a very important thing to any individual. Animals and humans need to map and understand their environment. We live on the country. Sacred spaces, Aboriginal people, very famous for the use of song lines. You can check out how song lines work, but as we've already seen, they are part of Churinga. Sacred spaces in Oriental understanding are ordered spaces. That is, you need to set a pole on the earth and track the seasons with the sun's shadows, so that you can understand where you are. Once you've done that, you've immediately begun to create a sacred space which is like a temple or it moves you from chaos. So that is the purpose of orientation and mapping. That is how important it is to be able to describe the lines on your land, the ridges, the mountains, lakes and rivers, especially waterways, I guess, but also walking paths. The descriptive nature of this process is similar to the language, because all language essentially is description. When we look at the roots of our languages, they describe things, actions, and then descriptive words. So everything is a describable feature, and nothing has a name away from its description. So those names that you saw before, like number colour or any Aboriginal word, Aboriginal place name, includes the description of the features of the place. They are never just randomly made up names. So the language is just like the thought process and the creation of the Churinga or Eolith. What is it that animals and humans and shamans can do that we can also do, but we are not practiced, and we seem to have lost this skill, which is to see the land from the sky? I'm not saying that this is a fact that I can prove to you, but this is what I believe. Is a textbook. It begins with some objects which it points out are natural and are not stone tools. This one's made of iron, comes from Minnesota. This one also comes from there, from here. There's probably millions of these. Omars or Omara look, Omar ALOK, something like that. They travelled from here to here. They're said to be calcifications from shellfish or something that have eroded under glacial scraping. But all the ones that I've looked at are topographical artifacts. Like this. If you check closely, you'll see all these lines and circles are even under the water there. That object is also a good representation of the ground there. Here is an Eolith, according to the author, naturally fractured. These are typical, it's true. What you're going to see is there's a number of large flakes been taken off of this, maybe about 7 or 8. Then there are these lesser flakes, and here there are even smaller ones, and there's more etching in here. So these are all flaked off. These are flaked off. And his example of an eolith, which is supposed to be a natural stone, turns out to be a topographic representation. All of these flakes are in the same direction. And that is not happening on naturally fractured rocks, showing that this is not natural, but they've been trying to avoid this for a long time, and they've managed to shut down all geologists, amateurs, anthropologists, archaeologists from calling out stone tools, which are hard to describe as a tool. It's hard to work out what this is because we didn't have Google Earth until recently. There's another view of it. And here's another one with an extremely flat side. Very unnatural looking one he's chosen. Yeah, why did he do that? It's like they're putting it in your face, really. I mean, have a look how flat this stone is. You might not have read just back there, but I did show you a section of text where he talks about Calico. That is a site in California. It's been excavated for a long time by starting with the anthropologist Leakey, and they found massive amounts of stone tool there, 50,000 to 200,000 years old. All of them are topographical objects. There's no wear on it, as all of these things. Looks like a blade, but not really useful as a blade, not sharp. Matches the terrain. The other side of it. Another one. Stone axe, typical stone axe here. Many stone axes are topographical. This area has a lot of these stone axes because the area actually looks like a stone axe. So they made a lot here, and there's a lot of flakes off of this. The whole thing is manufactured and flaked, but they make them like this with a sharp edge all the way around, and they're never used. For good reason, because if you try to use this as a stone axe, you'll just cut your fingers off. There's nowhere to hold it. And another one. 50,000 to 200,000 year old American artifacts, I think, are Churinga. Okay, there's a bit of my understanding of what's going on. When you look at the advanced work in the caves, etc., that has taken place, I think it's much earlier than the last few million years that produced these. A couple of 100,000 years ago, the Eolith stones in the last few million years, and the caves are no doubt much older. Thanks for watching.